Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Games Up podcast. My name is Cameron McCulloch-Keeble, and there is no Lewis this week. That was down to me, unfortunately. A thing came up on the day that we were recording this that I couldn't sort of get out of, but that made recording very difficult. So you're stuck with me for the minute, I am afraid. So I thought we'd do something a little different this week. We've had lots and lots of busy weeks with lots and lots of E3 coverage and news and leaks, and it's been non-stop for the past month. So instead, I thought we'd take a little bit of a slower episode, a bit of a breather, some stuff to look forward to in the future rather than the right now. Also, we're going to go over a couple of things that you might have missed because of all the E3 buzz and hype that happened, and then happened a bit more, and then actually happened, and is still kind of just about happening. So, with that, let's get into some of the news that you may well have missed. The first piece of news that you might have missed this week is kind of a sad one. Guitar Hero TV is being turned off by Activision. Now, Guitar Hero TV is part of the last Guitar Hero game that was released. That was called Guitar Hero Live, and the game was split up into two modes. The first mode was Guitar Hero Live, which is very much the kind of campaign of that game. You play certain songs in a certain order, and you advance through stages of the campaign. And then there was Guitar Hero TV, which was a kind of different way of doing multiplayer. Basically, they build it as a music TV service, I suppose, where different channels, there were only ever two channels, but where different channels showed different sections of music. They were in sort of half an hour programming blocks, in inverted commas, and they'd clump together certain genres of music, and you would play those genres of music. And basically the way that they did this was to avoid having people own songs, so that they could switch rights. If the game was successful, they'd be able to sort of on the fly switch rights to songs in and out, so that you didn't have some songs disappearing from your library or some songs appearing in your library. They would just be like, hey, look, we've added this to the programming block, and it would be more natural. And it didn't sell incredibly well, especially as at the time that it came out, Rock Band 4 was announced, and Rock Band 4 sold a little better and has seen a lot more support from Harmonix. They deserve a huge amount of props for the way they've supported that game, especially with how it sold out the gate. But yeah, neither of them sold gangbusters, though Rock Band did sell a little better, I believe. And yeah, as a result, after quite a few years, to be honest, like I want to say 4 years, they're shutting down Guitar Hero TV in December. For the most part, and for most people, this is kind of not news. A lot of people don't play it anymore, barely any. Like, a lot of people didn't pick it up in the first place, and now a lot of those people that did have dropped off. But I still play it fairly regularly. I really quite enjoy it, to be honest, and I think it was a really cool way of approaching rhythm and music games. And I do hope we don't see music games die. I'd like to see another Rock Band or another Guitar Hero down the line, because I do think they're an important genre of games. As somebody who plays like 6 instruments, not very well, just I can pick them up and play them. I'd like to see more rhythm games, because I think I think it's important to get people, and especially like young kids, into playing instruments. I think it's a cool life skill to have. And Rock Band certainly did that for me when I was younger, and sort of seeing people play the drum kit, it made me want to do better at playing the drums myself. So I hope we don't see rhythm games die. I hope we don't see music games die. And I hope that whatever is being killed here is being killed so that Guitar Hero can do something bigger in the future. Though I've got to be honest, I'm a little skeptical about that. If you do want to keep playing Guitar Hero in any kind of form, you can keep playing Guitar Hero Live. The campaign isn't going anywhere, just the multiplayer section of it is. And you can also play, there's a couple of Guitar Hero games on PC that people openly mod. They're a little bit more sketchy in terms of copyright and in terms of who owns what and all this jazz. But hey, that's the PC scene for you, right? But yeah, they're like open platforms where you plug the old Guitar Hero controllers in, the 5-button ones, and you can kind of play anything, sort of, if it's modded into the game. They seem like a really cool idea, though of course they never fly officially, like from Activision or whatever, because rights and ownership and stuff is a little dodge. But yeah, Guitar Hero TV is disappearing. That's a real shame, I think. Another thing that you might not have missed in the kind of hubbub of E3 was a new Crash Bandicoot level was announced. Now, this doesn't sound like all that much when you write it down on paper. The Insane Trilogy is getting a little bit of DLC. It's a new level. Pardon me. Fuck's sake. I'm not going to edit this. Sorry, it's nearly midnight already, so I'm not going to edit this. I'm going to keep the yawns in. The Insane Trilogy is 3 games. It's getting a little bit of DLC for the 3rd Crash Bandicoot game, but this is a brand new level. It's newly developed by Vicarious Visions, which makes it the first. I want to say now here, trust me on this. I want to say it's the first piece of original Crash Bandicoot material made in classic 2D style in 20 years. Which is really fucking cool. Like, it's really cool that not only is Crash Bandicoot back, because after the way it's sold, it's fucking back. Like, you're not going to not see it for years, which is kind of worrying. But, like, it's so cool that character is not only back, but relevant enough that somebody can put time into developing a classic level of a game for it. Like, it's not a new open world Crash, or it's not a new Skylanders thing, or, you know, those things will come, but it's really cool that we're getting a classic 2D piece of DLC. Who the hell would have thought we'd get DLC for Crash Bandicoot 3? That's so awesome. The reason this is important this week is because this is the week that the Insane Trilogy launches on all other platforms. So Xbox One, PC, sorry, nearly said PS4 there. Xbox One, PC, and the Nintendo Switch. I am so excited to pick it up. But this is important because if you're picking it up on any of those platforms, as I know a number of people are, you're getting that and the other piece of DLC that came out for the game at launch. So you don't need to worry about picking anything up on any stores, I believe, though double check with your digital stores and your Xbox eStores and Nintendo eShops and whatever, because at the time they launched originally on PS4, they were free for like a month. And I think to make do for that, they're making them just free out the gate. Double check though. I don't think you have to do anything. Oh, the yawns are real bad. I don't think you have to do anything. I think you just get the content included, all the new DLC. But yeah, double check. That's real cool. Another piece of news that you may well have heard about, as it's generated a bit of buzz and hubbub, but it's still kind of got a bit lost in all the E3 stuff, is that Pokemon Go has finally got trading after 2 years. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, finally, or after 2 years, which I just said, to be fair. But I think this is kind of the perfect time for trading to launch. They launched it alongside a brand new Friends List feature and new social features for the game, which allow people to connect in the real world and raid with their friends and battle gyms with their friends and trade with their friends. And as you do more of that with the people you know around you, you gain stronger friendship levels, which allow you to trade things more easily and get more rewards from raiding and get XP boosts. And it just sounds like a really, really damn good feature. I've been using it for 3 days at this point, and I cannot see a problem with it at all. Like, I was very, very skeptical of trading launching in any form in the game. And actually, I think they've done an incredibly good job of it. They've blown my skepticism out of the water. So once again... Sorry. Sorry, I'm very tired. Once again, Niantic have launched a feature and shown that actually, where Pokemon Go had a really rocky launch, they have kept this damn thing going. So rather than just talk and go over this, because a lot of people have in the last week, I wanted to do something a little bit different with this piece of news. So, if you listen to this show, firstly, hello, how are you? I hope you're having a lovely Monday when this launches. I hope you had a lovely Sunday when we're recording this. If you play Pokemon Go, and you're also, if you listen to the show, all of those things apply to you. You don't have to play Pokemon Go for that lovely stuff. If you play Pokemon Go and you listen to the show, drop your friend code in the comments below this video, and I'll do the same. And I will encourage my partner to do the same and some of my friends that I know listen to the show to do the same. And let's build a little hub in the comments of Pokemon Go friends codes. Let's build a little hub of, look, come and add me and I'll send you gifts and stuff. And let's build a little kind of community in those comments so that if people that you know want to get more friends, they can put their friend code in there. If you want to add more people, you can keep an eye on the comments as the podcast comes out after a week, after 2 weeks, after a month, and see how many more people have added their friend code on there. Probably won't be huge because we don't have huge listeners, but it might get you a few more friends and a few more Alolan eggs or something. That'd be cool. So I'll drop my friend code as a pinned comment at the top, and then we'll get other people to do the same, or we'll do it on the Facebook post, or we'll do it everywhere. It'll be real cool. And the final piece of news that I want to talk about this week, and it leads on to a slightly sloppy topic of the week, because I'm yawning all over the place and I've got hay fever and it's horrible, is that this week, after quite a long wait since the last one, Overwatch started teasing their next hero. There were a couple of things that they showed off. They put out a tweet with the words "the calm before the storm" and an image. Bear with me 2 seconds. And an image that originally looked like it was taken on King's Row with a bunch of different posters and graffiti and stuff, but it wasn't. That stuff was added to the map, the most recent map of Rialto, which is very interesting, and we'll get into it. So our topic of the week is, it's not a list, it's not anything like that, but my theories on who that hero is. Overwatch at the minute is super important, and it's super important for a number of reasons. Firstly, it's recently just crossed 40 million players, which is really big. Like, to put that into perspective, GTA 5 is probably the biggest game in the last decade, and it's on like 100, I want to say, million players. I'll double check that. One of the next biggest games down is Wii Sports, because that got bundled with every copy of a Nintendo Wii that everyone bought, and that sold 80 million copies. So Overwatch, an organic game that has not been bundled with anything, that's just been sold normally like a regular game would, has sold half the copies of all the Nintendo Wiis ever sold. Like, that's fucking cool. Borderlands 2 has sold, I believe, a little less than that, and that game's huge. What other examples of it? Minecraft is on, I think, 100 million-ish. GTA 5 sales. So yeah, Overwatch has sold really well, but they've also done a lot more in terms of. They've also done a lot more in terms of, like, esports, and how they've not revolutionized, but how they've made serious, like, changes and addendums to the esports world, and how they are broadcasting that, and how Blizzard are taking that in house to do. Also, they've been like one of the most successful, more recent esports tournaments that's been set up, which is really cool. They've also started to change the industry a little bit in how people look at monetizing games with stuff like loot boxes, and they kind of led to the loot box controversy, which is kind of unfortunate and kind of unavoidable, but true nonetheless. I still think they probably did one of the better versions of it, but we'll discuss that another week. So, Overwatch is getting its 28th hero. It's likely going to launch in the next sort of week and a half-ish, because that's the timeline of it. So who do I think is going to be this hero? There are a couple there are a couple of teases in the image themselves. So to start with, there is the very prominent image of an animal, front and center of the image, and some stuff about Horizon Lunar Colony off to the side. Horizon Lunar Colony is the place that gave the backstory for Winston, the space monkey. Hello there, in the game. I don't think I do a good Winston impression, but I thought it would be funny. In the game. And he was on that colony on the moon alongside another animal, we think, called Hammond. A lot of people are saying that Hammond is going to be the hero that we get this time round, alongside the rework of the Horizon Lunar Colony map. I am not so sure about this. I think Hammond would be very interesting, but I think they're going to have to make Hammond very different to Winston, because you don't just want two space monkeys. That is one of the things that makes Overwatch so good, is how much variety there is in the heroes, and how you can look at a battlefield and instantly pick out, okay, there's a Winston there, there's a Junkrat there, there's a Sombra there, and work around that. If they had two characters that looked very similar and had similar backstories, and as a result had to thematically look the same, or close to each other, that kind of damages the unique compositions that make Overwatch special, and that make Overwatch so fun to not just play, but to view as an esport. Like, if the meta, for example, became way too Winston and Hammond based, those tournaments would be a lot less interesting to view. So I don't think that we're getting that hero. Whether we don't get that hero now, or we don't get that hero ever, I'm not sure on. I think we probably do see Hammond down the line, but I could see them being like a totally different animal, or maybe they're a human or something like this. I don't think we're getting that, though I do think we're getting the Horizon rework fairly soon. The other thing that's teased in the image is kind of off to the side, and you really have to be looking for it. There's a couple of people who have broken this down far better than me, is the Junker Queen. Now, this, I think, is a lot more has a lot more potential. The Junker Queen is sort of earlier this year. In fact, maybe last year, within the last 12 months, they released a map called Junkertown, which is set in New Zealand, I believe, either Australia or New Zealand. I want to say New Zealand. And it's a kind of town on the outskirts of a large city that is a bit of a sort of... it's kind of hard to describe. It's a bit kind of Mad Maxy and a bit of its own world. It doesn't have a traditional... It's not a traditional city. It's not a traditional town. It's very much a kind of mercenary base, almost. And two of the mercenaries that belong to it are Junkrat and Roadhog. And the leader, the ruler of this town is the Junker Queen, and she is very, very briefly talked about and heard in the Junkertown map and in the trailer that led up to it. People have been asking for the Junker Queen for a while, and I could see this happening. I could see this happening. The reason being that we're probably going to get a support hero or a tank hero, because Blizzard recently changed the way that the comps look so that you get tanks, support, and damage dealers. And the damage dealers are combined of the attack and defense, so they drastically outweigh everyone else. There's like 15 damage dealers compared to the... No, I've got to do some quick maths here. There is like 15 damage dealers compared to like 6 tank and 7 heal or something like that. And Symmetra's moving as well, so that's still wrong anyway. But also, there was some work done by Blizzard recently to buff a couple of heroes because they were worried that the tank meta was going to get too strong, which seems a bit odd unless the new hero they're bringing in is a new tank. Like, it seems weird to proactively buff or change a hero because you're worried about tanks when the tanks are already there, unless they're adding a new one. I could see that happening. People have been saying for a long time that they'd like another anchor tank, like Orisa or Reinhardt. By the way, this topic of the week, I'm assuming you've turned off if you're not into Overwatch at this point. This topic of the week isn't going to get any less Overwatchy or any less geeky. So if you did listen just for the news, thanks. You're real cool. Like the show and subscribe to it and all that jazz. And we'll see you next week for a regular episode of the show. This is a bit self-indulgent, to be honest. Back to Overwatch. So people have been asking for an anchor tank like Reinhardt or Orisa, whose job it is to protect people rather than just sort of be a strong damage dealer. Because you've got people like Roadhog, Zarya, D.Va, who they're better as a sort of off-tank. Ironically, we when we reviewed Orisa, we called her an off-tank, but she kind of was at the time. They're sort of better as an off-tank, as somebody who supports a main anchor tank and deals damage around it. So somebody who can actually soak up damage or reduce the damage their team takes. Basically somebody who is there to be the front line of damage taken has kind of been a big request for a while. The Junker Queen, I think, would make a lot of sense as a tank hero. She is either quite tanky in the way that she commands... not respect, I guess, but quite tanky in the way that she controls things, or that she clearly has power over things. But also she seems to use a lot of mechs in Junkertown. There seems to be a lot of robotics and mechs, and it seems quite a sort of steampunky city. So I could kind of see the Junker Queen being a mech-based character who has a person in a very large steampunky mech. I think that would be kind of cool. I don't see her being... If she does come out at any point in the future, whether it's now or later, I don't see her being a support hero. She just kind of doesn't fit into that whole thing. One of the other kind of people it could be is somebody to do with Talon. That sounds a bit kind of vague, but it's as vague... It's like, I can't be any less vague. Rialto is a map based around Talon and based around Talon's activities, which was the reason that it was put in the story event that happened a couple of months ago, and the reason that it's stuck in the game is because they like having a wide spread of maps, but it's also one of the only sort of Talon, specifically Talon focused maps. So I could see somebody from Talon, maybe the head omnic of Talon, but no, that seems a little bit dodge. The other option is that it's just somebody we don't know about yet. Most of the heroes that have come out have been somebody we don't know about, especially in this new cycle. So in the first cycle of DLC heroes, you got a lot of kind of heavy hints and a lot of ARG stuff, like viral marketing stuff, And a lot of it kind of didn't work for Blizzard. It was very exciting, but it dragged on a bit too long, or there was too much fan theory, or they kind of built expectations up a bit too high. Whereas this time around, you've had Moira and Brigitte, or Brigitte, however you want to say it. And the only person who doesn't fit that mold of we didn't really know about them, we don't have a huge amount of expectation for them, is Doomfist. So I could see this being a new character that we have no expectations for, that we don't know going in, that they expand the story forward, perhaps. Yeah, I could see that being the case. I could see that making a lot of sense. They want as wide a roster in this as possible. So I could see that happening. The things I'd like to see is a new anchor tank, absolutely, or a new damage soaking tank. I'd like to see somebody who maybe they can be in kind of multiple places at once. I don't know how you do that, but something like with the Symmetra rework, she's getting a thing where she can shoot a shield across the entire map. So I kind of think that's a little overpowered, but she can place down a shield that splits the map in half, basically, from her point, and it will soak up all the damage for the next couple of seconds. But I'd like to see somebody who could do a little more localized version of that, like maybe they can put down pins or something and put a shield across that place, but it's kind of weak or something like that. I don't know, somebody who can be in multiple places at once so you can strategize around them. That'd be really cool with Symmetra's new teleport, maybe. I'd also like to see somebody who moves the story forward very meaningfully, because one of the problems that Overwatch has is that they have their stories very much in two places. It's the current day is what you play in the game, i.e. Winston recalls Overwatch, and Overwatch kind of leads to a bunch of what if battles, and that's what you play. But there's also a bunch of old canon and story that we're working our way through slowly, and I'd really like to get a large chunk of that going forward. Because I think one of the big things we're going to see in the coming year, if I'd put my predictions down, is we're going to see a lot more story-based stuff. I think we're probably going to see less and less focus on old events, like old Halloween stuff and old Christmas stuff, and more focus on new Retribution-like events where there's a lot of story focus all at once. And I think to get there, they're going to need a couple of people who either move it forward or a couple more animated trailers or whatever it is. And I'd like to see that hero do that, because I love the style and the themes in Overwatch and the aesthetics and just the kind of overall tone of the universe. And I'd like to see a character that really adds to it rather than kind of feeling like they just live in it, if that makes sense. So that was our topic of the week. Super self-indulgent. Thank you very much for listening to it. Although hopefully you like Overwatch enough to have stuck around. And those were the news stories that you may well have missed thanks to all the hubbub around E3. That, ladies and gentlemen, is our short episode of Games Up Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us if you did. We really appreciate it. You can find this show every week at 6:30 on Monday on YouTube and published much earlier that day. Much earlier even that day on iTunes. You can catch it on your way to work or lunchtime. And then also we're on all the facial channels, all the social channels. We're not on any of the facial channels. All the social channels, Facebook, YouTube, iTunes and Twitter. We're at Games Upcast on all of them, and we'd love you to come along, whether it be to share your friend code or just like the page so that you don't miss anything that we post. And you can do the same by subscribing to us. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week, and until then, hopefully we'll enjoy the new Overwatch hero by then. Hopefully we'll all be joining Crash Bandicoot by then. Who knows? It's going to be a real good week. See you next week, and until then, the game is 100% up.